Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. This is Miss Luden coming at you. Just a reminder, what I would like you to do over the next 2 days is these 3 things. You are to watch this video and take notes on topic 2, and that's in the bright yellow packet. You're to complete homework assignments 10A and B. They can be found on pages 18 and 19 of the same packet. And complete test corrections if you're eligible, and that would be on the test on quadrilaterals. All right, so let's get started on this video on topic 2. And be good for the substitute, and that's it. Take care. All right, you can see in your packet in topic 2 that this is all about area and perimeter of rectangles. I know we've talked a lot about this. Rectangles, what are the interesting things to consider? Well, first of all, like what makes a rectangle a rectangle? We talked a lot about this, and that's that it has 4 right angles. Right? So 4 right angles. Another word for that is it's equiangular. We also know in this rectangle that the opposite sides are going to be the same length. So the left side is the same as the right side, the top is the same as the bottom. And remember, the fact that opposite sides are congruent, that's because it's a type of parallelogram. We've talked a lot about this before, but the area of a rectangle is the base times the height. Sometimes we say length times width, and I'm so sorry about my handwriting here. It's very hard to write on these things. Sometimes we call that the length and the width. It doesn't really matter, but really it's one of the sides times the other side. So it's basically just the 2 different dimensions times one another. So for the perimeter, remember to find perimeter, we start at one corner and we just take a walk around each side. And so the idea is that there's going to be 2 bases, and we're going to add to that 2 heights. Okay, so I think pretty easy to understand. So squares, remember squares are type of rectangle, so they have all right angles as well. But they're also, every side is the same because it's also a type of rhombus. So I'm going to say that squares have 4 right angles, as well as 4 congruent sides. So while we say that rectangles are equiangular, remember we said that squares are both equiangular and equilateral, meaning they have all the same sides and all the same angles, and so we call them regular. So that makes the perimeter even easier to find because think about that. The base and the height of a square are exactly the same. So I'm going to say that the area is just the side squared. It's the side times itself. And then the perimeter, if we take a walk around, we just take one side plus another side plus another side plus another side. So it's just 4 times each side length. Okay, so make sure you have all of those taken care of. So now we're going to do a lot of what we call backwards problems. And so backwards problems are where you're going to have to use the formula first and plug in to find something. So if the perimeter of a rectangle is 100 inches and the base is 15 inches, what's the height? Well, if you don't immediately know how to solve this, maybe you draw a diagram. And I'm going to call that base 15 inches. And we're looking for this height. Well, remember what we said about rectangles is that opposite sides are exactly the same. So I'm going to say this is 15 inches, and this is also the height. And now remember what we said about the perimeter is it's just we're going to add up all the sides. So what I can say is that 15 plus a height plus another 15 plus another height, well, that adds up to 100 inches. So now look at that left-hand side of that equation. So pause here, and before you start solving, I'm going to combine my like terms. H plus H, I'm going to combine that. That's going to be 2H. The 15 plus the 15 is going to be 30. And that's going to be 100. It's going to be set equal to 100. So now I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. So subtracting 30 from the left just leaves me with this 2H. Subtracting 30 from the right leaves me with 70. And then I'm going to divide by 2, and I get a height of 35. So maybe you substitute that in, and let's check it out. Does 15 plus 35 plus 15 plus 35, does that add up to 100? And it does. So the area of the rectangle, well, that's taking this problem a step beyond. So remember, if the height is 35 and the base is 15, to find the area, we take the base times the height. So you get your calculator out and figure out what 15 times 35 is. So go ahead and do that. And hopefully you got 525. Let's talk about units. Remember what we said. We said that perimeter is a one-dimensional measurement, meaning if we just kind of spread this perimeter out, it's 100 inches. And so this height is going to be 35 just plain old inches. But remember what we said about area. That's going to be measured in square units. So I'm going to say that the area is 525 inches squared. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So the next one says, if the area of a square is 225 inches, what is the length of a side? So what we have is we have a square, and remember squares, all the sides are the same. And so if we know that each of these sides is the same length, we can just say that the side squared, I'm going to represent that by the letter S, side squared equals 225. So maybe you can figure this out in your head, maybe you use your calculator, but the idea is what number times itself is 225. So you could either figure this out for yourself, or if you want to use your calculator, what you're going to be doing is taking the square root of both sides. So the square root of S squared is just S, and loading this into the calculator, the square root of 25 is 15. So now notice, the area was 225 square inches. So that means the length of each side is going to be just 15 plain old inches, because again, it's a one-dimensional measurement. The next problem asks, well, what is the perimeter of that square? Well, if the side was 15 inches apiece, can you figure out what the perimeter would be? Each of these sides is exactly the same. Each of these sides measures 15 inches. And so the perimeter is just going to be 4 times 15. Or maybe you prefer to think of it as 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15. They're exactly the same. No matter how you do it, you get 60. Now, what are the units? Is it going to be inches or inches squared? Think about perimeter and what it means. And perimeter is a one-dimensional measurement, so it's just going to be plain old inches. One that I